Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa. And we have with us, first time on our Solutions channel, the beautiful Jessie. How are you, beautiful
Yes,
lady?
great. Doing well today. How about you?
Good. Yeah, also doing well. As you know, we've been given a little slap on the wrist, so we're not on Aquarius Rising Africa for now, but very happy to have you for the first time. Yeah, and we're going to be having you in the future as well, a couple of weeks from now. I know you're going
Wow.
away for a little while, talking about, I'm not going to say it now, but beautiful things. So stay
Yes.
tuned. We'll let you know. Kiddies and healing the family and all of that sort of stuff. So very, very much looking forward to that. But in the meantime, what are you up to, beautiful? What's been happening? What is happening? I know we're going to be missing you for a few weeks.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I have a lot going on. So I'd like to just encourage people. The first thing is I have my new book out, 5 Minutes of Grief with God. And yeah, I've been really touched. It seems like there's just been so many people going through grieving the past 2 years that it really was just needed to encourage people through that process. So, whether you're grieving yourself or know somebody who is, I just encourage you to take some time, read that, and let the Lord just work in your heart through that. You can get it on Amazon.com, and again, it's called 5 Minutes of Grief with God. And then, yeah, I'm always busy. I've got two main shows, Right on Radio and the Reveal Report. So with the Reveal Report, George and I have been doing the Glory to God tour, and that started, this past summer when we were in Orlando and the Louisiana areas. And really, we were making a lot of headway, anointing the land and kind of tearing down some strongholds of wickedness that were in those areas. So we were just back in Orlando just a couple of weeks ago, and that was phenomenal. We had so many people stepping forward. I know people don't know the full extent of what I do, but in a summary, I come out of a very high level occultic background that did include interactions with a lot of politicians or high level people in the world, whether they were, bankers, doctors, lawyers, government officials, and including the military. So I've had to do a lot of testifying, bringing forward, my evidence and my testimony about things with these individuals who are part of the Luciferian Brotherhood. So, with that, I mean, it's been a fight to, you know, basically, stop them from doing what they're doing, which is crimes against children. So that's kind of been the bulk of my fight my entire life. And so what's really cool is that, I'm always looking for people to really be dedicated and to commit to their areas and to making a difference, to making safe communities for their children and fighting the things in their communities that are really bringing that wickedness into them. So as we were going through the Glory to God tour, it started with a lot of anointing, properties and land, but now we've got people who are wanting to be anointed and baptized, and they're like, we're ready to step up, we're ready to fight. We want to see action in our communities. We want the miracles, the signs, the wonders. So that was amazing. The Orlando tour, we had, everybody who was there stepping up to the plate. And Louisiana is going to be even bigger. That's a high area where, a lot of people have engaged in dark forms of magic. And we've had some teams down there that have been ministering, and a lot of those individuals are coming out of those high levels of, dark magic, and they're ready to get rid of their stuff and burn it and make a public display that, they're not going to participate. in that wickedness or darkness anymore. So that's really exciting. You know, as people look into New Orleans or, you know, Mardi Gras, you can see the stuff that happens there. And yeah, so that's exciting. And then with Right on Radio, I would just encourage people to keep up on our shows. Jeff and I have kind of been working on a long-term series, which we're going to get into part of one of those series today. But you know, we've been really breaking down like how the system works, the type of different forms of magic they're using, and how it relates to the abuse or crimes that have been happening against children. So that's the important thing, is that, you know, I'm not just coming out talking, you know, about forms of witchcraft or targeting those who practice these things. You know, those that we're speaking out against are using these things, you know, in committing crimes against children. So that's what's important, to be aware of what's happening, how it's being used, and that knowledge then creates awareness, which, as you know, we go out in our communities or, you know, our schools or public areas, you know, when we see these things happening, we will know how to pray and how to, you know, take a stance against them so that we can prevent children from being harmed.
Absolutely. And not a moment too soon either. Wow, I'm so looking forward to that. And I wish I was there. Someday. Yes, absolutely. Wow. Well, I wish you so much love and luck with all of the beautiful things you're doing right now. And I think it's very, I don't want to say worthy cause, that's not the right word, but I think what you guys are doing is amazing. And just going out there spreading. And I know from the last one you just came back from, just the response that you were getting from the people that had been there has been phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there are a lot of Southerners who are looking forward to that as well, because Louisiana is definitely a place I want to visit. Definitely. That is something I definitely want to visit. It's always been on my...
It was so interesting. Yeah, like the last time we went, it was really kind of cool because with George's background, he was involved heavily with the paranormal. So he has like a lot of, I always forget what it's called, but it's like that electromagnetic detector. I'm somebody, I like fun little toys, you know. I don't use them myself, but if I can find a way to, you know, make things funner, I'm all for it. So anyway, we went, as we were going into the main market square where there's this massive Catholic church in the area down there in Louisiana. And so we were going to go anoint that area. And literally, now it's crazy when you see it with your own eyes. But it's like you've got this big Catholic church. They have active priests who come out all dressed in their full priestly gear. Right in front of the stairs for the church, there's all these tables set up. So they've got like, you know, tarot card readers, psychics, you know, different people doing different forms of magic and witchcraft, voodoo, hoodoo, like they're drawing hoodoo circles, everything right in front of the church. And you're like, how can this be, right? So we were going to go anoint and stuff, and we're talking to some of those people. And as we do, like literally the priests come out and prance like right in front of us, and then they came out a side door and headed into the main door. Well, we're like, well, we'll be respectful, you know, we'll go in, and we wanted to see inside the church, and literally a security guard stopped us, pulled out a gate and locked the gate so we couldn't go in. Well, then we heard the priest singing, and I was like, oh my gosh, George, like they're singing, like they're doing something. They're trying to open this gate. And so as we go around to the back of the church, there's this Jesus statue, which in the system, they will use that statue as an energy neutralizer. So it's kind of like it'll be like an avenue point where they focus and they'll send energy through. And so it's like, you know, George pulls out his little electromagnetic thing, and, you know, we'd walked around the building, nothing's going off. All of a sudden he gets to that back area, it's off the chart. Like it's like at a 8 to 10 on the scale. And he was like, whoa, like they are sending energy. And as we followed that stream of energy, it went straight to this big voodoo shop down there that has a massive Baphomet statue inside of it. And so they were literally sending energy to the voodoo shop with the Baphomet right down this street. It was crazy.
From the church. Wow.
Yeah. But it's interesting because when you're on those tours, like you can investigate, you can follow things and see exactly what they're doing. So then, you know, at the end of the day, you have to question, you know, were these priests really there to worship God? No, they weren't. You know, we caught them. They were engaged in sending energy down to the Baphomet statue. You know, there's no denying it. So very interesting.
Very clever too. Wow, it's amazing. But, you know, it's so good to, what I'm loving about this time that we're living in right now, and my gosh, we know that it's freaky and can be hellishly challenging, but so much is being revealed, you know, so much is coming up to the surfaces. And although, I mean, we're seeing so many people still clinging onto their old narratives with everything that they have, you know, defending these old narratives and their belief systems and stuff, I think it's only a matter of time before the truth really does set us free. So, wow, very interesting.
And that's what we, you know, it leads right into what our discussion for today, because, you know, really what we've had happening all these years is different institutions, whether it was the Jesuit Catholic Church, whether it was Masonic lodges, or, you know, we had also the Mormon Church, or the, you know, military, the government organizations and institution. You know, what we're bringing out is a reality that these individuals who run or who are at the very top of these institutions have been committing crimes against children for the purposes of their black or dark magic that they've been engaged in. So it goes right into that, you know, that this is just one of the ways that they, you know, work that magic. And it really deals with their worship of idols or of fallen angels or beings. But it goes quite down a dark hole, I guess we'll just say.
Well, I'll tell you one thing we've really understood, especially in our conversations with you over the past year and a bit, is that there are so many dark holes, and just so many of the other overcomers that we've been talking to. There are so many dark holes, and can't wait for them all just to be shining light out of them. And Jess, I know you've got such a huge task / responsibility when it comes to that. And I just want you to know we are praying for you. I know that you under some challenges at the moment as well regarding that, you and your family. So, and I want to just say to our viewers out there as well, keep this beautiful lady in your prayers. She's doing a really important stuff.
Thank you.
And what we've heard in the past 2 years is just a little scratch on the top. That's for sure. You've been preparing the hordes, but hey, we're there with you. We're there with you. That's for sure. Walking alongside.
We'll go down the deep dive, and I promise we will get out of the hole.
Absolutely, we will. And thank you for taking that dive. And for those of us who are certainly following you, alongside you, we got your back, that's for sure. Anyway, so not too long ago, a couple of months ago, you did a very interesting show with Jeff from Right On Radio. And if I remember correctly, it was called The Blood Diamonds or something. I'm not
Right.
exactly sure the title, but you, in that show, and I've been wanting to chat to you about it for a while. So I would like to just piggyback off that and maybe have you also just speak to our viewers who possibly haven't seen that. And maybe I've got my own questions around that as well. And I'm sure Morné might have a few of his own as well. But the first thing you spoke about was the lace. Okay. Well, not the first thing, but one of the things you spoke about was the lace, you know, the intricacy, call it, of the lace that some of these ladies or women in the system kind of wear or display everywhere. Now, that to me was a first. I've never heard about that before, but which then brought to mind Kate Middleton. When she came out of the hospital after just having given birth to little, is it George, the first one? Yeah, George, wearing the same dress and lace as what they had in Rosemary's Baby. So a lot of people over the time have questioned whether that is actually symbolic of little George calling the AC. Okay, I don't know how much I can say anymore. But I would love to know your take on that, as well as little Charlotte and Louis, because there's now 3 babies in this royal family. I've also heard, and I don't know if you can have maybe any opinion on this, but that she actually never birthed any of these children herself physically. That you know, as we've been told that a lot of these elites, whatever, will have these fake pregnancies and not actually give birth to the children themselves, but either have them birthed in the system or have surrogates do it for them or something like that. So I would love to know, firstly, your take on that, and what is the significance of the lace?
Yeah. Well, the lace, I brought out on that show, Blood Diamonds, how, you know, the system uses diamonds and in magic. So, you know, I'm trying to think how to even go back or how to start with all this, but, you know, if we look at like how they exploit children or people, you know, it's all about money in the system, but the money and the currency is not just financial money. So, you know, when they've got somebody in the system, let's just say a child that they want to, you know, they consider expendable, which means that that child is only really money for them, you know. And so how do they use that child for money? First, they will sexually exploit that child. Then when that child's no longer good for that, they will offer more money for that child to be consumed or to be ritually killed. Then that person can pay more money to you know, have that child turned into a diamond, which they can keep as a trophy diamond, or they can keep or sell on the market at a high price based on the quality of that diamond, which I'll get back to the quality because that's important with the lace discussion. And then after that, you know, they'll use the remains and stuff of those ashes and sell those to the food companies. They'll curse them, put hexes, all sorts of stuff on them. And then the public is paying, you know, then we'll just say for that child as well. So, you know, there's at least 5 or 6 different ways off of each child that they get an income. But why the diamonds are important is that because that goes to the heart of what they do. You know, their sexual exploitation at the highest levels is not simply because of lust or because they want to have sex or because they're porn addicts. You know, really what's behind it is the sex magic that they, scripture tells us, you know, some things about the spiritual gates. And spiritual gates are a very big part of all of this. The spiritual gates are the gates that allow one to get from, you know, I just call them dimensions, but from one dimension to the other. So if you think about like the dimensions as a 5D chessboard. You have the, the earth, which is kind of just like that third middle dimension. Below it, you would have two lower dimensions, and above it, you have the two heavenly dimensions. So in order for them to, leave the physical earth and engage in that spiritual world, they have to enter into another dimension. Well, scripture tells us, how that happens. In the Psalms, it says, enter the Lord's gates with thanksgiving, enter his courts with praise. So how do you access entryway through those gates? It's through thanksgiving and praise. But these people are wicked, so there's no natural inclination of their hearts to praise God or to give thanks to God. So, how do they enter? Well, they realize that there's another emotion that vibrates at the same frequency and resonance as thanksgiving. And, that's vital to the way the gates operate, because they operate all on frequency and harmonics and resonance. So, what is that emotion? It's ecstasy. And so, that's where the sex magic comes in, that by engaging in that sex magic, by creating that emotion, that will open up those spiritual gates that gives them access. So, as you've got these high level warlocks and witches involved in this, we'll call it dimensional travel, they had to know, like, who can engage in those acts with them, because not everybody's the same level. If you have a new beginner in that type of magic, they're not going to be able to get into all of the spiritual gates. They might just be learning how to operate them. They might just be learning how to, function in that spirit world when they're there. So one of the ways that the system would classify the status of an individual was through the diamonds and through the lace. So the lace patterns, if you were to take a diamond and kind of like stretch it out like a piece of lace, you would see a very distinct pattern. And that's basically what the lace was early on. That was a way that they could know, what dimension, what type of sex magic can that child or that woman engage in. And therefore they wouldn't just be like, approaching anybody. They would know who they could approach, who they could engage with based on those indicators. So it's one of the ways that the system, uses that, as you've got high level elites in, gathering together, they will all be wearing their jewels, their diamonds, and those diamonds will tell you their level, like, which spiritual gates they're best at engaging in. There's different, as you go to the different dimensions, you're dealing with different music, different sound, because each of the spiritual gates, it's kind of hard to explain, but they each have their own song to access them. So that's where all that comes in. And, you can even go back in time and look at like portraits that were done of royal people and look at the specialty, that's why lace among those royals was so important to them, because it told them, what levels of sex magic the children or the women could engage in, whether boy or girl. In the old days, boys also were adorned with lace if they were considered elite. So it gets really interesting, but yeah, that's as best as I could explain it. So now for the questions.
I mean, interesting is probably the understatement of the century. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That is, again, you know, after talking to you nearly every week for about a year and a half now, I'm never short of being amazed at the levels of depravity. This is really depravity, you know, when we're looking at the diamonds and things. I mean, our kids are literally being incinerated, and they are created and they are made then into diamonds. You know, there's a movie called Blood Diamonds, which was made a couple of years ago, yeah. Leo DiCaprio was the main actor, and called Blood Diamonds, but really based on what was going on in the Congo, because obviously in Africa, the Congo is probably the most minerally wealthful country on the continent when it comes to diamonds and a whole lot of other things as well. But that has also a lot to do with child slavery, enslaving the woman and children needing to work in these mines, literally being punished, having their hands chopped off. So really in such a disgusting way. And that, I think, was what we were led to believe that was blood diamonds. So for me, that has always been what blood diamonds are. And rest assured, not for 1 second is that any better, in my opinion, than what you're explaining. But this is just, from what I'm seeing and hearing, and what the conclusion I'm drawing is that that movie is actually a cover-up for. So
what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we've been, you know, that series kind of started with Right on Radio, back to the episode. I think it was the Travis Scott concert, and I think that it's the episode right before the Texas Tea. But if you go back and look for that Texas Tea episode, we really break down, like, you know, the ritual that happened at that concert. That, you know, here you've got these Masons gathering together who are high-level alchemists. And, you know, what is the goal of an alchemist? It's to create what they call the immortal stone or white gold. But what really is that white gold? You know, for them, it's not even that in ritual that they have all this, you know, blood for their pacts with the bloodlusty spirits. You know, it's that they have learned ways to create that immortal stone, which means it's themselves and it's others, you know. So they've moved, you know, their alchemy to the point where they don't need objects outside of them. They learn how to literally physically change aspects of the human body. And so in that episode, you know, Texas Tea, we bring out what happened with that alchemy, that, you know, that they need 4 things, which is part of why, you know, they were encouraging people to get that jabby jabbers doohickey stuff, and they were putting the graphene in it. You can go through different alchemy books and you'll see that that graphene is in a lot of those higher level alchemy exchanges, we'll say, for making gold. That you have to have some sort of metal, which could be graphene or mercury, and then you also have to have, we'll just say, thurium and 2 other elements. But thurium is found in everything. It's one of the base organic elements that's found in anything organic. So by having these 4 elements, they can create gold literally within the blood. And what happens when they do that is that oxygen is released in that exchange. So, you know, even going back to that concert, what was one of the complaints of the people that were there? They were saying they felt like they couldn't breathe. There was no oxygen. Why was it? It was because there was this magic alchemy being performed on their physical bodies, and their body was releasing that oxygen as their blood was being transferred into something else. And at the highest levels with this blood magic, you don't need to have, I guess, the blood is not going to be outside of the body. They're going to make that change right inside. And as they do that, literally the blood is changed into those blood diamonds, which the diamonds, their surfaces reflect the resonance and the sound that's needed to engage with those other dimensions. So they literally, their body becomes a living access point or portal to go into these other dimensions. So they can use even other people to make it a multi-dimensional engagement, I guess we could call it. But that's what they're doing. And, you know, we've got books like, you know, that Michael Aquino, the head of, you know, our DOD and working with our military, you know, he passed this last year supposedly. But even in his book trilogy, which is used as a military manual, he has embedded these codes for that type of high level blood magic that they're using with those Stargate and Spiritual Gate projects, even with the US military. So, you know, my concern has been that now they're engaging the public. It's not just specialized military warriors using this type of magic, but now the magicians are coming out and they're using it on the public. And, you know, what's their goal? It's to, you know, make everybody into those living stones. And what happens when you're a living stone is that as the oxygen is released from your body, we're over 75% water. So as that oxygen is released, we're left with hydrogen, which we know that hydrogen is one of the #1 energy sources in the world. So basically they're making each living body into an endless energy supply with, you know, their spirit. So that's kind of where things are headed with that, which is of great concern. Because then what, you know, what happens with the physical bodies? What happens when people don't know how to operate or use their spiritual body? Because we're, you know, they've taken great care the past 40, 50 years to train children to be very physically orientated, where they don't even know anything about their spiritual body. They don't know how to use their spiritual senses. So what happens when you're all of a sudden put into that state where you don't know how to control yourself, you don't know how to do anything, you know, you're not going to know how to combat that, and they'll be taking spirits or souls captive as, you know, to be energy for them. So, you know, my goal is to help prevent or stop that from occurring as we progress into, I guess, this next season in life, I'll say. But
so would it be accurate to say that they are using these bodies, that they've used their high level magic at, let's say, the Travis Scott concert as portals? Can we say that these bodies, now would it be everyone that was there? Because from what we're understanding, everyone there, they were having these jabby jibby jibbity dooey stations all over the place. So pretty much, and I think it was for free if I remember correctly. So these people were going in there having this zap zap zap, going in for free,
right,
not able to breathe. So already that their high level alchemy was obviously taking place in a lot of people's bodies on that night. So they go home now. These people go home, the ones that were lucky enough to be alive. So they're going home now, and they've still got this concoction, if you will, within their veins. Do they continue to be a portal for these entities, energies, or how does that work now?
Yeah, they do continue to be a portal unless they pray and rebuke those access points. You know, that's the good news, is that the enemy, you know, he gets people on a double bind, which he's always done. He gains access through will and consent. So the fact that they showed up for the concert, the fact that they got the jab, that's considered will and consent for whatever follows. He doesn't give the fine details saying, you know, if you show up for this concert today and, you know, you get this jabby jabber, you know, next you're going to be used in this ritual and your blood's going to be turned to gold, and you know you're going to be an access point for demonic spirits and high level witches and warlocks to get into and out of different spiritual dimensions. They don't clarify that for people, but it's implied that if you show up, you've now just willingly consented. But the good news in that is that you can remove that will and consent anytime. And scripture tells us that all we have to do is confess our sins and ask the Lord to close those doors. So, you know, I simply will pray and say, okay, Lord, if there's anything in my life that displeases you, show me. And when he shows me, I will confess it and say, Lord, you know, forgive me. And I'm asking you to remove all access points that I gave to the spirits or through, you know, that sin or what was displeasing to you. And so immediately that access is taken away. Now, what's interesting is that sometimes these spirits will fight you to keep that access point open, but you just have to be firm and say, no, you know, I'm refusing access point. You do not have my permission to use my body. You do not have my permission to use anything about me, whether physical, spiritual. You know, I am my own sovereign being, and you do not have permission to use me in any way. So that's the good news with that, is that it's easy to, there's an easy solution to fix the problem.
So let's say there's a whole lot of people that are unaware of this knowledge, that had this happen to them that night. Now they're going home and relieved to be alive type of thing. What would you say would be signs that they are being used as a portal for these dodgy ones? Would it be, say, increased demonic attacks? Maybe they've never had this sort of thing before. Would it be illness?
Usually it would be, usually it would either come like at night, where they may be being attacked at sleep in their dreams, or during the day, like if all of a sudden they're losing time and they black out. You know, it could even just be that they don't know they've blacked out. They just realize all of a sudden they're missing amounts of time. That could mean that these magicians or spirits are using your body without you being aware. And, you know, they'll do spells that will, like we just always called it blackout, you know, where you lose time and you're like, what was I just doing that past hour? I have no memory of that past hour. So if you're experiencing some of those things, there's a good chance that you are being, you know, utilized without your knowledge of it.
Where could people, let's say people didn't go to that concert, but they might have had this kind of stuff happen, or be a target, have been targeted for this kind of stuff in other places. Where would these other similar type places be that people could have been targeted? I'm just trying to put it out there for our audience that if these kind of things are happening.
Happens anywhere. You know, it can happen while you're sitting in a class at a university. It could happen at your job in the medical center. You know, there's high-level witches and warlocks everywhere. You know, I've had situations where they like to put high-level witches on the units, like in the ICUs or the units where they've got a lot of morbidity rate. And, you know, those people will be casting spells. And, you know, for anybody who's not a high-level witch who's working as a nurse or a social worker, like you could just be going to visit the patients and, you know, sitting down to visit a patient, and next thing, like, you're just like, huh, like, I remember nothing about my conversation with that patient, like, I'm tired, and like, you just go walk out of the room and continue on your day and don't even realize that you just had a moment where someone has accessed you and you have no recollection of what's happened. So they can, you know, say, you know, schools for children, that's a common one too. Or so, you know, you should be able to remember your days. You should be able to give account for what you've done with your time throughout a day. And if you can't, you know, then you need to question and maybe say, maybe I need to pray and, you know, just be safe. Safer than sorry, you know.
This brings me to another question around that, because I've often asked the question or posed the question regarding this GABBI doodah. I mean, we understand it's a kind of a depopulation agenda at the end of the day. So for me, they could take us out in any way that they wished, because they really do have the power and the technology to actually do that. But they're doing it through this, and they're doing it through the blood. Because again, I mean, it brings me to my recent interviews with our local beautiful doctor here, Dr. Zandre, who has shown us slides of the blood before this and after. And it is horrendous what happens within the blood. So do you think that this could be, other than the particles of whatever that is connected to the 5G, et cetera, on a physical level, but I'm talking on a more spiritual level now as well, exactly what we're talking about here. Do you think that this is another way that they are starting to use human bodies as these portals through giving that? Is this another way that they are doing it spiritually as well? I'm not even talking physically now.
Yeah, I do. I think it's, you know, creating a larger access point, doorway, you know, instead of, let me maybe think of a better way to put this. You know, as they're trying to open these doors and gateways, you know, there's a difference if you just have it spread out where, you know, let's say you've got one individual in Minnesota, you've got another in Arkansas, you know, there's a huge space. But if they want to open one consecutive doorway, then they need all the access points to be able to open at one time. So what we see happening is that they're creating or making the means to create multiple access points so they can access everybody at one time, no longer just sporadic individuals here or there.
Sure.
So that's the one world effort, is, you know, to create the one world mind, one world body, the collective consciousness. You know, that has to begin physically in order for it also to be effective spiritually.
Is that why you would often hear, I'm hearing a lot of people say that when people have had this thing, it's like their personalities change. It's like they're not the same anymore. It's like they're separate from the spirit. That I'm hearing that a lot. Would you say that that would be a reason that's happening? They're kind of already
Yeah, because
separated.
there's that separation. People are losing access to their spirit in that process. You know, it's a double bondage. Your physical body is bound, but also your spirit is held captive as well.
Through ignorance, right?
Yeah.
Literally through ignorance. And that is why ignorance is not bliss. Because, you know, really it's not bliss. I had a conversation with someone not too long ago, and I said to her, are you aware that we are governed by the LACEYs?
Mm-hmm.
Got highly offended, left the room, and pretty much told me, well, we started the conversation when it was this, and she said, well, and she's a Christian, and she said, well, Christ promised protection to the Christians, although she's probably had the third one by now. And she said, those of us who believe in Christ know that. So, my question was, well, are you saying that you don't think I believe in Christ? Because I really do. My point being that ignorance is not bliss. So when I actually I posed the question, I said, are you aware that this whole entire planet right now is actually currently being governed by the LACEYs?
Mm-hmm.
Very offended, got out and walked out the room. So it makes me wonder, and it makes me think about exactly what you're saying, and it's almost like a naive ignorance. Yeah. And I don't want to, these are good people, right? These are really good people. And, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to offend anyone, but it's not just one person. There's a lot of people that are walking around with that understanding that they are protected by Jesus, Christ, whatever, and that's why they've taken us. My point to people is, my question to a lot of people is, let's think about Jesus. And let's say Jesus was walking around amongst us now. Do we really think he'd be walking around all muzzled up and taking this? I don't think so. Jesus was the ultimate.
He'd be asking our faith, where is our faith? Do we believe God is all powerful? Or are we putting our faith in the wisdom of men and what they're telling us to do or what we need to do? So it's absolutely right. But, I think, it's an exercise on both parts, where, even if you've had that jabby jab, your faith is still what's at play. And where is your faith? Do you believe that God has that power to protect you, both from the jabby jab and from whatever they say is coming around? And so you need to get to that point where you are exercising your faith and belief in God and not just putting your hope in false saviors or in men or, medication. It's one of those false saviors. The vaccine is a false savior. At the end of the day, we just want to live, but where does that life come from? The Bible tells us that Jesus is the life, and without him, there is no life. And so this is where the enemy gets, again, a right. He steals one of our sovereign rights. We have full access to life in Christ. God's word tells us that we are created in his image. And what happens is that, that when we lose that faith, when we start to turn towards other things, then it puts that separation between us and God. So, when you have that separation happening in the physical and the spirit between you and God, if that's not restored and put back into a right relationship, then you've got both your physical body and your spiritual body held captive by the enemy. And, you know what, it doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not. If there's something between you or God, the enemy's got an access point now, and your spirit's being held captive. You're not walking or living in the life or the authority that God has given to you. And so that's what we need to be mindful of, is not allowing the enemy to steal our kingdom rights and authorities that have been given to us by the Lord.
That fully answers my question around that topic, which I've had a question mark over for quite some time. So thank you for answering that. Then I know we're heading on, time is marching on, but I would just like to go back to the beginning question around the Kate and the little kidlings, the little princess, little princes and one princess, and her lacy bits that she had.
Rosemary's lace. I do not believe that. I'll just say there was a purpose to the lace and the red. You know, that besides being the same dress that they played in the movie Rosemary's Baby, the point behind that whole movie was that, you know, this woman had been set apart for Lucifer, and that she was to carry the seed for Lucifer. So a lot of times in the system, they will use those colors, the red and the lace, to signify that they have been set apart, you know, whether it's as a bride or whether it's in marriage. They're, you know, they can have dual marriages, but it just means that they're set apart for serving Lucifer. So I don't believe that little George is the Antichrist, you know, but do I believe that he's part of the Luciferian Brotherhood and has been born into that family bloodline that he's in? I do, absolutely. And as I've watched, you know, some of the different things publicly that him and his siblings, Charlotte and Louis, have gone through, I see evidences of the same things that I experienced as a kid. You know, one of the things was for Christmas, they had him doing the bread pudding. And you can see this video where, you know, he has to stir the bread pudding, and they keep adding ingredients and flour, and it gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and gets to the point where he can't stir it anymore. So at that point, his father encourages him just to stab it, right, with the spoon. Well, what people don't realize is that that is one of the things that they would practice. You know, the system doesn't want, I guess I'll just put it, their soft way of introducing you to the concepts and things that they're training you for is to make it fun. You know, so you, in that process, you don't realize that, you know, that you're learning how to stab, or you're building up that strength or stamina to stab something. You just think it's a fun game with the cookie dough or the bread pudding, you know. I experienced that with cookie dough when I was a kid. So, you know, but that's one of the ways that they prepare you for the rituals and the things that they're going to be doing. And it is common for them to do it public, you know, because they want the other people who are elites in the system to see and know and watch that you're being prepared. And, you know, and you get used to that mentality of having a group or circle around you who are cheering you on and applauding you for later. It's going to be evil that they're applauding you in, but that's part of their building in the system, the circle concept of who are your partners in the circle in the witchcraft that you're participating with. So I have seen a lot that those children have gone through that, you know, is very reminiscent of my own childhood and my own training. So I would say, yes, definitely, you know, they're system kids and they're being trained up. But I don't believe that, you know, George is the Antichrist, or that Kate, you know, gave birth to an Antichrist. So.
What about little Charlotte? We never hear much about her. What is your take on where she's at and what she's being trained for right now?
Don't. Yeah, my heart cries out for that little girl because I've seen some of the things with her, you know, where I think that she's a very formidable person in the system. I see, you know, a lot of times they will do what we call twinning, where they'll have a boy and a girl team up, who will be trained up as kind of partners in their magical system. And so I see that a lot of the characteristics that are needed between, like, you know, they call it the equilibrium, that, you know, one will be good, one will be evil, one will be male, one will be female, one will specialize in fire magic, the other water magic. So they're always looking for that equilibrium in the system, and they can get that through, you know, siblings who are born close together, or sometimes cousins. You know, they'll look for those matches with the children when they're pairing them, and I do believe that she is one of the children they've matched up with George for the magic that they're doing.
And the little one, Louis?
Louis, I don't know. I haven't seen a whole lot on him. He looks like a little cutie patootie, so he's probably the humorous one in the bunch and the rebel rouser, you know.
Sure.
So I don't know, you know, they don't always have all the siblings in a family. You know, usually just one or two will be chosen to be partaking in system things, and the others, usually they'll have one that's a scapegoat. They'll have one that will be abused horrifically. So it's interesting because, you know, I think that, I don't know, I think that Louis kind of has that last role in there where he is either the scapegoat or the one that, you know, kind of takes the punches so the other two, you know, don't get in trouble for what they're doing. But
let's hope not. My word. So then the last question I have about, well, actually it's twofold. What is Kate's role? How does she get to be in this role of being the mother of these children and the wife of the future king? Where does she fit into the system? And secondly, did she actually give birth to those children? Do you know whether she actually physically gave birth to them herself, or because there's been speculation around that from what I've been seeing?
I personally, my personal opinion is I don't believe the kids are hers. But, you know, I could be wrong in that. But it is very common for, especially those who are the face fronts, world leaders in the system, to, you know, have kids that are not theirs. They will pay high prices for these kids that can, you know, who have special spiritual gifts and things that they can access to add to their circle. And, you know, their job is to, you know, have successors, to train up children who, you know, are taught from basically birth to fulfill the roles that the system has for them. So, you know, I see a lot of that, you know, part of Kate's role, both her and William are high priest and high priestess. They do have seats on the Satanic Council and, you know, rotate for the House of Windsor in that Satanic circle. So, you know, their rule is mostly that Eastern quadrant, and working with the other Eastern quadrant Grand High Priest and priestesses, and then High Priest and priestesses. You know, so I do see them raising George up in that kind of role to, you know what his rotation is going to be, to know what's going to be required of him. That's probably the best I can answer that question right now.
Sure. Okay. Jess, thank you so much again.
You didn't look happy with that answer, Chantal.
No, it's just, again, you know, I'm just not happy with the entire system doing what they're doing, and, you know, these little kids, and
they're like breeded like dogs, you know. It's like, I want the purebred dog, and I'm gonna breed my dog, and I'm gonna buy it from the best breeder. It's very sad, and this is like, you know, kids. I mean, I feel the same way with animals, but yeah, this is kids as well. You know, it's crazy. Like, if you look at previous evidence.
Yeah, it's sad that people need to go to these lengths to get their desires. Anyway, let's hope sooner rather than later we will be shedding enough light on this entire system for it to be dissolving. That's for sure. Looking forward to that day, and I definitely hope I'm still around on planet Earth to see it.
Yeah, we do.
Exactly.
Jess, thank you so much again for your beautiful wisdom and your amazing intel on you. Just as I said, you should be called encyclopedia. Yes. What's the lady version of encyclopedia?
Well, one of our viewers said anointed encyclopedia.
Anointed, well, there you go, the anointed encyclopedia, because my gosh, she certainly, it just doesn't stop. Anyway, before we end off, won't you please just pray for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day, and we just come before you. And Lord, I know this information is so hard to know and to be aware of, but it's so important, Lord, that we do know, and that we aren't afraid to get into the fight and to protect our children in the world. And so we ask that as these things are revealed, as they come out, that you would show each of us how we can be involved in this fight. And Lord, you know that our fight is greater than just taking out the physical bad guys, Lord, that there are principalities, there are powers, there are rulers and authorities in the heavenly places that are behind some of these things. And so we must be willing to enter that physical and that spiritual battle to rescue all children, Lord. So I pray that you would give us that wisdom, that knowledge, that understanding and how to do that. We ask that once again that you would bring out these kids with a mighty hand, that each one that is born into these type of families against their will, Lord, that you would remove their chains of captivity, that you would remove the bonds and the yoke of oppression that keep them in that captivity. And we ask that you would set them free. We ask that you would bring them out with a mighty hand and with songs of joy. And we trust, Lord, that you are in that business of deliverance and redemption. So we ask that we may just humbly be a part of your plan to execute that. And we just pray this in your powerful name, Lord. Amen. Well, thank you, dear friends.
It's been wonderful to have you. And I know we're not going to be seeing you for the next couple of weeks because you are gallivanting again. You're abandoning us.
Gallivanting. Yes, George and I shall be gallivanting, which is great.
Yeah.
But you can still watch, you know, I will have a few things up on Right On Radio. Definitely, I would encourage people to check out my libertystand.com. I'll still be doing some temporary work with that while I'm out and about. But if you can make it, ticket sales should go out today or tomorrow. So I just encourage anybody who's near Louisiana. We'll be doing 5 different shows. So we'll be in New Orleans through the 17th, and then the 18th and the 19th we'll be in Shreveport. So that's not far from that Texas or Dallas area. So if you're close to that, I just encourage you to come on over. It'll be a grand time.
Well, I've got to learn how to teleport. I've got to tell you very quickly.
I'll just open a portal for you, Chanti.
That was a spiritual plane. Can you just open up a spiritual plane?
Jessie. Seriously, I was like,
yeah, that would cause a global disaster, I think. You know, I'd probably get in trouble if I did something like that. They'd shut us down real quick.
Yeah, can you imagine having to explain how I suddenly appeared next to you? I did not fly. I refused to get this.
Hello.
That'll be fun. I look forward to that day. It's going to be fun, right? It's going to be lots of fun with I love mischief. So I'm going to be one of the first that you do that for, Jess. Okay.
So
oh, lovely. Okay, guys and girls, thank you so much for watching us. And again, Jessie will be back with us on the 23rd. 23rd, yeah. And that's also the first, we're going to be back on the Soulutions channel again, where we're going to be talking about healing as a family with children, especially if you've, say, been in the system or had any abuse of any level, trauma, that's occurred, and how do you work with your kids and stuff after that, and with the family unit. That's a really, really important one. Really looking forward to that. So also we on the Soulutions today, because as I've said before, we got a little smack on the wrist, so we're down for another week or so. But please share and share and share and share, because on this channel, we definitely, it's still a tiny baby channel. We've been going for less than a month, but this is where we offer solutions for all the horrible things that go on in the world. And this is where we talk about the very cool things and how we can change that and make everyone's life a much better place. So God bless you all. Thank you for watching. Take good care, and we shall see you on the flip side. Lots of love, everybody. Thank you, Jessie. Well, good morning, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Focus on Australia with Aquarius Rising Australia. And I am beyond delighted to finally meet face-to-face Fiona Barnett. I was just saying, Fiona, you were I can't even remember how many years ago it was, but it was many years ago when I first came across one of your interviews, the stuff you made me aware of then. And one of the things that I remember hearing was the kiddies hunting. It shocked me into another blood group, I'll tell you that much. And it's just been so amazing, you know, over the past year and a bit that we've been having this channel, Aquarius Rising Africa, sort of giving a platform to overcomers and people using their voices to tell their stories. And here you are. It's really such a pleasure. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing what you do. And I'm just going to hand over to you and our gorgeous Gabby again, and I'll chime in wherever necessary, but would love to hear what you have to say today.
Thank you. Thank you for knowing who I am and knowing my work and you know, my legacy and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of people, like I say, a lot of people don't know who I am. And I was just saying that, you know, people send me stuff because I've been offline for 2 years and a lot's happened in 2 years. And then people send me stuff, go, oh, have you heard this? And I go, yeah, I wrote that 7 years ago. Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm being forgotten by the new generation of woke people.
I don't know even how that's even possible, but you are definitely one of the first people, if not the first that I know of, that came out and told your story. And I can imagine that could not have been easy for you. You must have been targeted.
No, I was targeted beyond belief. I was targeted by police. I was targeted by ASIO. I was chased around when I went to make statements in Sydney after doing my national press conference about this stuff in 2015. I stood outside of the Federal Child Abuse Royal Commission building and I told the world. And then the next level of hell began. and I was chased around when I ran down to make 2 days of police witness statements. I was chased around Sydney by T4 ASIO officers, and that was interesting. So, yeah, I mean, my story, basically, you can get it for free. You can download it from a number of sites like Kathy Fox's blog, and it's on archive.org, it's on Bitcoin, and, you know, my site, fionabarnett.org, that had years and years and years of stuff, and I just had got jack of it all 2 years ago. And I put up a few things I feel comfortable doing. A lot of legislation's changed since I posted years ago. A lot of, you're not allowed to say anything about politicians anymore. They've changed the law. But other people host my book. I don't host it. And it's all around the world. And I released it for free so that I figured CIA can't herd cats. And I got it out there, and it's been downloaded. I don't know how many millions of times now, really. It would have been downloaded around the world since I put it up there in beginning of 2019, I think, when I first published it.
It's such an incredible book. Your eyes wide open, just revealing like the international structure, and it was ahead of its time. Like, I think people are just catching up now. So if you haven't read it, please download it. It just really explains the depth of this depravity and how it's
the connections between everything. And you need the 2020 lockdown edition, because there's a third more book for the dollar you don't pay, you know. It really better explains things, and I put a lot more information there about the MK Ultra perpetrators. You had Wendy Louise Walker at the University of Sydney. I tie things up a bit, tie things in together. You got Jerry Boykin, the head of Delta, the Delta commander that I was under. Because what people don't understand, back then, like, I released things to the public, I thought, well, what can I get away with now? You know, I couldn't go bang and, hey, Australia had a child soldier program, you know, 8-9 years ago. I just started with a little bit, just ritual abuse, and I attacked the Wood Royal Commission, and I'm the first one to bring that up again, and the contents of the Wood Royal Commission that John Howard sealed for 99 years, and I set about to expose what happened to Derek Boy's home, and I'm the reason Derek Boy's home even got investigated by the cops. I pushed that, went around collecting witness statements, and I sent them off to the police and the special police group that was connected to the Royal Commission, and led to, I opened the way for boys to be able to get compensation for that. I exposed, I was running around exposing evidence, exposing a big New South Wales Education Department child trafficking ring. I was doing that in 2004. I was running around the streets and driving around and collecting witness statements with an old laptop and an old printer, and getting people's statements there before they chickened out, and send it all to the Australian newspaper and all that sort of thing. And, I had nightmare with all of that. And, ended with cops pulling my husband over and holding guns to his head on the side of the highway, and them ambushing 3 family homes to make me shut up. That was all back in 2005. And I paid a high price, but I think I was doing it all to make up for, well, to expose, to give a name to the kids that I saw murdered, the kids I saw bred in captivity by the Australian government underneath Holsworthy for the purpose of MK Ultra and the super soldier program that was moved to Australia, to Pine Gap. Pine Gap was the big head of the super soldier program. They had a big underground facility at Pine Gap. Same people who built Pine Gap built Dulce, and in America. And Dulce was the MK Ultra laboratory headquarters for America.
Wow.
There's a lot.
I couldn't believe that, so much of this has happened in Australia as well. And
it was
like
the headquarters.
Yeah.
The headquarters. So the CIA brought MK Ultra to Australia in 1960 when the head CIA psychiatrist, Martin Orne, came out and did a 2.5-month sabbatical at the University of Sydney. That's where it all began. And you had the Madsen building at the University of Sydney. That was where the CSIRO had its headquarters. And you had Eric Traub, the head of Nazi bioweapons, was brought out under Operation Matchbox. And you had Leonis Petrauskas, whose father was like second in charge of the Soviet Union. And Leonis was a Nazi doctor from Lithuania. He came out. He was mates with Anthony Kidman. Kidman and Wendy Louise Walker and all these people trained under Martin Orne as well in unethical hypnosis. They went on to run, Kidman and Wendy Louise Walker went on to run the lab underneath the south end of Holsworthy Army Base, where they had kids in cages there. They had 7-story underground facility with a Freemason black and white checker, floor, marble floor with the encircled pentagram, and they weaponized the occult. So you had the people in charge of all of this, the religious group with the Rosicrucians, and that's who the Rothschilds are in. And the Rosicrucians are the pinnacle of the order, which involves Freemasons, Order of the Eastern Star, OTO. OTO had its headquarters in the Wentworth building at the University of Sydney in the student services area, recruiting kids for their dirty, filthy works, So people wonder about, well, what's the link between the occult and the military and MK Ultra? Well, MK Ultra was a weaponization of the occult knowledge that Hitler sent his scouts out gathering from all over the world, and they weaponized psychic ability, and they selected kids who had the greatest potential at what they were looking after, kids who were best subjects for hypnosis and best subjects for practical mental influence, and the kids with a very strong right hemispheric processing ability, and that was high IQ kids and Aryan kids with the strongest constitution. Blue-eyed blonde kids have a very strong constitution, and so they're looking for kids preferably even better from the Levite bloodline, because they have an extra good ESP ability, which they can then weaponize.
Levi bloodline? Can you explain that to me? The Levi bloodline?
Oh, it's just one of the Jewish bloodlines. So it is funny because I never heard anything about. I said that for years, and the Jason Project were after the kids, the Levites and high IQ Levites. It was on someone sent me something, said, I heard it being said on Israeli News Live, with that Ben someone. And he was talking about, he knew guys in the Israeli army, and this one guy from the Levites who was high IQ, they tried to recruit him into the Super Soldier Project. And I'm there going, I'm the first person who said that 30 years ago that I know of in my world, So yeah, there were criteria for the Super Soldier program, and they were stealing everyone's genetic material. So the relevance of high IQ kids is high IQ kids, when they perform a cognitive task, both hemispheres light up. Average IQ kids, only the left hemisphere lights up. So right hemisphere is the seat of interdimensional processing ability and astral projection, all that sort of thing, which is what the Hermetic, what the Kabbalistic tree of life is based on. Okay, so the MK Ultra programming structure that Josef Mengele devised and extracted from the people in Auschwitz and the death camps, that came straight from Babylon, and that knowledge. And the Kabbalistic tree of life is the foundation of all the orders, right? All the very, Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Rosicrucian Order, the Freemasons and all that. They all have the same sort of themes, worship the same gods, and they stem from ancient Egypt, Babylon, and whatever. And the practices from those ancient mystery religions is what was weaponized, collected and weaponized by the Nazis and by Mengele. And Mengele never died. He came to Australia, and he worked in Australia out of he had a lab underneath the US Embassy that down in Canberra, and he had a lab on Milton Island in the Hawkesbury River that was owned by the Army. It used to be owned by the Army. There's a rec camp there since I talked about it, but and he mainly worked in those facilities. And he was there under Holsworthy, but many of those others, and of course overseas in America.
Wow.
Oh, quite crazy. I would like to maybe ask you if you could just give, for the benefit of our viewers as well, your beginnings. How did this occur to you right from the beginning?
So I'm second generation MK Ultra. My father was raised in one of the camps in Germany, and they wanted him. They took him for experiments. Then he was a little blue-eyed blonde kid, and high IQ, and they wanted him. So he came out to Australia. I don't know, was he 4, 5 or something? At the end of the war, they had Operation Matchbox, brought out a whole bunch of Nazi war criminals, and they brought out a whole bunch of if people could offer information, then they gave them asylum in Australia. So my Nazi war criminal step-grandfather, and I don't even think she's my grandmother, I'd say that she just took my father and used him as a prop, just as she used her husband that she wasn't married to. She lied to the authorities, said, "Oh, this is my son, this is the father of my child." And the step-grandfather, he wanted to go to Canada, he didn't want to come to Australia, but he was, they forced him to go to here. And so they came out, and a whole bunch of them settled in Sydney, in the Sutherland Shire and Wollongong area, Bathurst. Bathurst, they had a big camp out there where all the refugees were brought, so-called refugees, Nazi war criminals, brought out from, the Slavic countries, because the greatest number of Nazi war criminals were Slavic. They weren't even German that came to Australia. So they came out, and they had a whole established network already. My grandmother, Lithuanian grandmother, was really good friends with a guy called Leonis Petrauskas. And Leonis Petrauskas was a Nazi doctor whose father, Kipris Petrauskas, was very high up in the Soviet Union. And so Leonis was a secret communist. So they had this fifth column come into Australia, and you had a number of people involved in this whole network connected to Leonis Petrauskas. Leonis lived in Engadine, where my grandmother lived. Engadine's next door to Engadine Boys Town, Australia's first boys' town, where they recruited victims from. It's down the road from Holsworthy Army Base, where they had the underground labs, and Australia's first army base. Next door to Lucas Heights Nuclear Reactor, where they had, a 20-story CSIRO laboratory system in Ansto, nuclear reactor. And Ansto Nuclear Reactor is registered to America, to a company in America. And the people who built Ansto Nuclear Reactor also built Pine Gap. And it was all to do with the 1951 security alliance between Australia and America and so forth. So you had this Cold War effort, MK Ultra program, where the Russians were competing with the Americans and English and us to develop a super soldier. So they recruited kids like me. So being second generation, I already had, you inherit trauma down to like the fourth and whatever generation, and kids who are high IQ are very easily hypnotizable. We dissociate more easily. We can better visualize things in our heads because the right hemisphere is more active and more interconnected. We're better at being trained in astral projection. If you've got a very strong visual spatial ability, makes you good at language acquisition, makes you and makes you faster, your reaction time faster. So there's a perfect correlation between scores on comprehensive IQ tests and administered by someone who knows what they're doing. There's very few of them, and reaction time. So if you puff a puff of air in my eye, how long does it take for me to react and close my eye? There's a perfect correlation. So the whole thing, what the military knew is, and when you join the military, the first thing they do is IQ test you. What they know is that IQ corresponds with, really good, a bit higher potential at being a good sniper. You're a better shot, better at driving a tank, better at dodging, better at code breaking. You've got a better capacity for photographic memory. So if you weaponize things and enhance these natural abilities you find in high IQ kids, using mind control techniques, MK Ultra techniques of unethical hypnosis and drugging and these sorts of things, dissociation and trauma-based association, you can create a super spy, you can create a super assassin, you can create a super soldier. And the best assassins are females before the age of 23. They make the best assassins. And
what
the best, they are more intuitive, their hemispheres work together better than men. who's going to suspect the cute little kid in pigtails walking into a hotel in Havana that kid's got a gun on their hip and going to take some bastard out upstairs? You know, 8-year-old can move around a hotel in Havana more so than an adult. No one's going to suspect an 8-year-old. Yeah. So you can train a kid to kill. Child soldiers in third world countries. Look at them. And we all go, oh, we're white, we're civilized. We don't have. Yes, we did. We had better child soldiers over here. So, and 14 is the optimal age for a female child soldier because you can reach the pedals. Kids, high IQ kids with a very strong right hemispheric ability make better pilots. And so they've got like symbiotic technology where you merge with the controls of a plane with your helmet. And female 14-year-old girls make better pilots. You know, you got those girls from, I think, Utah I used to be in contact with. They wrote about being involved in MK Ultra, and the two sisters were pilots, and they talk all about that in their book. I think it came out a couple of years ago, 2019 or something like that. You know, lots come out since I went public, so it's good. But this is what they were after. This was the end, super soldier project. And then CERN Hadron Collider. So I was called Project Alice, right? And then CERN Hadron Collider, the main project that took over from using kids for this. Your collider, the main project there is called Alice. So I do a bit of research into CERN, and it's run by a D-Wave quantum computer that makes computations interdimensionally, according to Gordy Rose, who was the CEO of D-Wave. And you can see him in TED Talks talking about it. They put information in that computer, and they don't even know what computes it, the other side, and then something spits it out. And one of those computers runs NASA, one runs Google, one runs CERN. This is your AI. It's been up and running since 2010. Now, the precursor to CERN and to the quantum computer was the clairvoyance of Hitler, the women. Because they would, what's all the occult knowledge? What did you know about Hitler? His clairvoyance. They used to, how'd they get the technology? You know, and how did Tesla get his technology? Consulted clairvoyance. And so some interdimensional entity gave them all the blueprints for the rockets and the bell and all this sort of stuff, right? So that's what they used kids for. And now, instead of that, now they have the quantum computers. Now, that's the relevance of the Kabbalistic tree of life. The Kabbalistic tree of life, every one of those spheres, those 10 spheres, you can buy on the internet a tuning fork that corresponds to each of those spheres. Now, to access those spheres, each of those spheres is an interdimensional location. They would teach you that in the OTO, in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, in the Rosicrucian Order, right? It's an interdimensional location. And astral travel, when you master it, you go to those locations through astral travel, all right? That's what this was all about. And those tuning forks, you do it, how do you do it? You have to have the perfect pitch, right? The perfect key to get there, all right? And that's why people chant in rituals and so forth, right? To access those interdimensional portals. Now, CERN Hadron Collider is built over the traditional site of the Temple of Apollyon and the traditional site of the doorway to the abyss. It says in Revelation that in the end times, an angel comes down with a key, the right frequency, opens up the door to the abyss, and Apollyon comes out. Right? So that is where all MK Ultra was headed. That's what it's all about. It's all about opening portals and releasing interdimensional entities. And what was the guy who had the muscular disorder in the wheelchair who died? The genie.
Hawkins?
Hawkins. He warned everybody, do not turn on the Hadron Collider. He said, don't do it. You don't know what you're bringing through. No, yeah. He warned everybody. This is where they're going, people. This is what they want. This is what it's all about. This is what the entire project is geared towards. And they're going to have this big end time battle. It's going to become crazy supernatural shit. It's going to go from World War III, which is where I said 2 years ago, China and Russia are going to invade they're going to nuke America, invade America. America will be nothing. There'll be nothing left. America is Babylon in the Bible, in the Old Testament. America's Babylon, all right? It describes it perfectly in those prophetic books, all right? The greatest mysteries are in those books, those prophetic books. You can't beat those. You know, none of those occult books compare with what's predicted in those books. Yeah. And I know I was raised in the occult. All the secret stuff, everyone strives all their lives for 10 years or more to learn. They never learn it because you've got to be born into it to know the big stuff.
It's so interesting that the military is so tied in with the occult and is so completely aware of the multi-dimensional universe that we live in. And yet, all of that knowledge is so suppressed from the people. We're so dumbed down.
Absolutely hidden. Absolutely hidden. Yeah, absolutely hidden. Within the military, they have their own orders. They have the Order of Leviathan and the Order of Dagon. Right? So they're military orders. And that's what, if you look at my book, I capture a bit of that, you know. Of course, in the last 2 years, I was always putting more pieces together, more pieces of the puzzle together than what I published in the book. And I had a lot of stuff online that I've taken off. You know, I was exhausted and sick of how stupid people are. The number one thing I can't stand is stupidity, bloody stupidity. You tell people stuff and they go, oh, but isn't it this or isn't it that? Did you read my book? No. All right, well, when you've read my book, come back and then we'll talk. You know, I don't want to have to teach you.
Like a link for that book, by the way. So is it possible we get a link and we can actually post?
If you go to fionabarnett.org and you scroll down to the first, there's only a few articles on there, choice ones that I like, and you scroll right down, down at the bottom, there is 3 links in a different colour, in like a sepia colour. Click on those, it'll take you straight to the book, download it. In Australia, if you take it to Officeworks on a pen drive, it costs you $75 to print and bind now. Went up from about 55, so that's how much more I included in the last edition. But it will blow your mind. It pieces together everything. It explains crime, child trafficking, the links between the occult, the military, you know, the ultimate Botox treatment, you know, all these sorts of things, you know, it's all there.
So can you talk a little bit about the ultimate Botox treatment? Can you give us a little bit of a tidbit?
Well, once again, it's said about, well, a lot of that came about from the research that was done by Eric Traub in Papua New Guinea and Leonis Petrauskas, my abuser, participated in that research in Papua New Guinea, and the CSIRO, I believe, played a key role in developing the ultimate Botox, right? More than you think. I saw some, I was tired when I saw it because I used to, when this all started happening 2 years ago, I had the best stuff up there. I had all the videos and everything, you know, stuff you can't get anymore. And I saw one time where someone put together a thread and they explained how the CSIRO in Australia were the real ones behind the development of a lot of it. And I'm really disappointed I didn't. Well, I don't know, I'm tired, but, you know, I should have kept that and I could have given it to you guys. But, yeah, so the CSIRO have labs all around the world. People don't understand. Go look at it and see how many labs the CSIRO have all around the world. And, you know, I don't know if I've said this to you, but the Child Abuse Royal Commission recommended the establishment of a redress scheme for children, for people who'd been raped in Australian organisations. Whoever signs up to the redress scheme is admitting, it's an admission of guilt. They're admitting that they raped kids in their institution. Anyway, who signed up? But Anstone Nuclear Reactor, CSIRO, ACES, ASIO, and the Army. All right, they all signed up, people, because they raped kids like me, in their scientific institutions, and trafficked
in the
me.
name of science.
In the name of science. So the whole point of rape, and that's why pedophiles, like Kidman, were involved to do the dirty work. Because the whole point of rape is it's a trauma. It's a trauma. And that's one of the reasons why the ancient mystery religions employed child rape. You know, this whole bringing about trauma and dissociation through rape and through drugs and unethical hypnosis, that's been passed on through the generations over thousands of years, that stuff.
Yeah, that's been going on
since.
since.
It's been weaponized.
Absolutely.
I'm interested to know, you mentioned also, you know, early on about the end times with Russia, China, invading America, America being Babylon, etc.
Even the annihilation of Babylon, as in America, is in the books of prophecy. It says their eyes will melt in their sockets, and their skin will melt on their bones, and their flesh will just melt away. They describe the modern weapons.
Yeah. So,
and Gog and Magog. Magog is Russia.
What do you think is the significance of this Russia-Ukraine situation right now?
Provoking Russia to retaliate, and there will be World War III. There will be the absolute annihilation of America, because you have to have order out of chaos. The new world order, like the phoenix, rises out of the ashes of the chaos that they're creating, out of the nuclear war, out of the devastation. You traumatize people so much, you make them so bloody desperate that they will accept a man of peace come along. They're going to accept, right? They're going to accept someone who comes in, this charismatic world leader, or whoever it is, whether it steps out of a bloody fake UFO or whatever it is, right? People will want that, because people are so traumatized, this, you know, manipulated, you know, flood, the bushfires, and the Botox program, and, you know, all this sort of thing. They're so traumatized by it, and war and everything, when you know, people are just right now in state of shock in my area, around the flooded area, in a state of shock. And when that hits everyone, and, you know, people do anything to stay in the comfort zone. So many people, you see it lockdown. Oh, I just want life to go back to normal. Right? Yeah. I just want to go back to normal. I just want to be comfortable. We all want that. That's human nature. No one wants to be in pain, right? Psychological or physical pain. No one wants that. That's normal. But guess what? Never going back. Right? Yeah. And they're going to force people to comply. And they're going to take something in the end that, if you take this last one that's coming, this was all just a practice run, and to just, you know, decide who's who and who's going to do what, and to predict how they're going to run the next phase of the operation. And the next one is going to be, there's no turning back from it. And that's why the prophecy books, yeah, it says, if you take that last one, that serpent bite, it says it very clearly, that is transhumanism. That is, you will not be able to die. All right? Men will seek death and not find it. They're going to switch off the death gene. Channel 10, 15 years ago, I think it is now, maybe not, it was about 2005-ish, you know, Channel 10, I was watching the early news, and they said, oh, scientists have isolated the death gene and they know how to switch it off. And I'm like, yeah.
They're always so much further ahead than we would even comprehend.
You would not, but cloning was perfected. Cloning was perfected when I was 6. I saw something like I saw a clone army dressed in Nazi uniform underneath Pine Gap when I was 6. And they were gender neutral.
Unreal.
Okay, so I do believe there has to be an polarization, an opposite to that. So what, in your opinion, would be the way for us? You're obviously a little bit more and refusing.
What hope is there?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's hope in humanity. Someone prancing about a frickin' stage, you know, spewing my material without recognizing me or the other MK Ultra child soldiers. Don't put your trust in people like that. Don't go looking for a savior in humankind, all right? I think it's a spiritual battle now. I ran around screaming and screaming, trying to warn people before I got to this point. I was yelling from the rooftops, right? Being shot at and dodging bullets all the while. And I tried so hard to tell everyone what was coming. And now the Nazis are already here, people, to try and, you know, go up against the police force or whatever. It's like as if you're in Nazi Germany and the Gestapo in control. It's like trying to go up and put your face in the Gestapo's. You know, it's not, they'll just beat you to a pulp, right? They've taken over now. We are in the middle of tyranny. Communist takeover is already here, right? You've had a communist revolution in America. I predicted all of that. I told everyone how that went. You know, I summarized the whole process in the book. So you have, you know, all this, you know, minority groups' rights and all this sort of thing was a communist agenda. They had a fifth column into, you know, sneak into American society and infiltrate the universities and journalists and all this sort of thing many, many years ago. And Yuri Bentov, the KGB defector, warned about that. Tried to spend his life warning America, don't let this happen. They did. They infiltrated Australia through the University of Sydney and it spread. And all my perpetrators were part of the fifth column. And it's already here. So they're having communist revolution is already occurring in America, right? I was talking to someone, an American Sunday, and you know what we see in the media is not what's happening in America. Far worse than what you think. And I tried to warn everyone. I tried to warn them. I spent all of 2018 warning people, you know, about this fifth column incursion coming up through Mexico, and they had Russian weapons and everything. And I was telling everyone in Australia online going, yeah, I think we've heard enough of this. Why do you keep on going on about this, Fiona? I was trying to tell people what was happening. And guess what? It's happened. So you got these masses and masses of communist soldiers are in America now under the guise of refugees. You got masses of communist, right, soldiers in Europe have taken over. Men of fighting age. And the propaganda television network will tell you, oh, there's all these women and children. They show the odd woman and child and everything. They don't show you the hundreds of thousands of male soldiers coming through, right? Now, I tried to tell everyone that they're all positioned in America, ready to take American down. There are Chinese troops in the Canadian forests, in the American forests, right? Ready to take that country down, all right? The next step after communist revolution is communist invasion, right? And that's what we're going to have here. China is they already own it, right? Learn Chinese. Learn Chinese. There's preparation. And get out of the cities. Get out of the cities. Sell what you can. Get out of the cities. All right? Find food and water, because that's going to be, how much warning do we need the last 2 years to frickin' stock a basic pantry, people, to get some emergency kits together, to get, you know, I was just stuck in floods for a week, you know, with no internet, no phone. And we were like, felt like the dark ages. And my daughter, who was a good prepper, she pulled out this little radio with, you know, said, well, here's the emergency kit. I told you, you've got it, because she was, you know, really good at first aid and all that. And we're like, yeah, okay. Well, we appreciated that bloody radio that's only this big. We lived with that for a week, and it was like, oh, remember radios, you know, and like relying upon the local news, and, you know, you're hanging on for some, you know, contact with the outside world. And all I thought was, oh my God, imagine when China and Russia, you know, invade, and we're in the middle of World War III, and they all their EMPs, you know, their electromagnetic pulse weapons took out our biggest warship when it went over to check out the nuclear bombing of Tonga not long ago. All right? It's already happening. We're already in World War III, people. You've had American warships going up and down, pacing between Australia and the Asia, and you've got these Chinese warships up the top, pacing up and down in a standoff months ago. All right? So it's already happening. Tensions have already been building. China's gonna take Thailand, and what's the name? You know, Korea. No, what's the other one?
Taiwan.
Where everything was made. Taiwan. So they're going to take Taiwan, and Taiwan's it's a military vantage point for taking the rest of us. They're coming, right? In Indonesia, they used to teach years ago that the top of Australia belonged to them, and in one of the Indonesian royalty families has massive cattle farm 30 years ago at the top of Australia up in the Gulf. You know, they've already been infiltrating. We already sold the communists already sold this country. They already infiltrated all parties and sold us out many years ago. And if you look at my book, I give a good breakdown of where communism started, where it got a foothold in Australia, and the relationship between that and MK Ultra. And what's happening now globally. So World War III is coming. It's coming. That's my next thing. to try and tell you. I mean, you know, pedos of power is so yesteryear, you know? That's nothing. It's going to be old news. Worry about the next thing, which is, you know, surviving war.
Mm. We've really been in war for a long time. It's just actually coming up and into our, you know, mass consciousness and awareness. And really, I agree with you, Fiona. I think the challenge is now for people to disconnect as much as they possibly can from all of these satanic systems in every way and become as self-sufficient as possible. And that's the way forward.
You know, people share properties, you know, see if you can, you know, get properties and let people come and stay there, and not lazy bastards that aren't going to do anything. I'm talking about you turn up on a property with your tent or whatever, bring a hoe and start digging. You know,
community
do you know how much food it takes to feed a family of 4? Shitloads. I failed during COVID lockdown. You know, I watched all these freaking videos. And it's like, you know, there's one chick, Prep Setters, and it's a beautiful lady from the South in America. It's like doom, 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 Prep Setters. She's there and she's making perfect jam and perfect cheese and perfect soap. And then she's, you know, and then there's her shooting a perfect target and all this shit. Anyway, I'm there, I'm going, okay. And I really reckon I could have started my own YouTube channel. It would have been a hit called Shit Setters, you know, or Shit Preppers. And, you know, Shit Preppers, you know, lesson meets the eye, shit preppers, where we're going to die, you know, because everything I made turned to shit. It was terrible. I tried planting vegetables, and the only cucumber that grew, there was a big bright light. This color worm came out of it. And then I was trying to make my own soap, so I was rendering my own tallow. And then I turned I went to you can't get tallow anymore. And I found one butcher who says, how much? You want 20 kilos? I said, yeah, sure. Oh my God. Do you know what 20 kilos tallow is? You know, and I had to render it. Oh, you've got to render it, triple render it till it's odorless and that. Well, I had tallow in pots everywhere cooking. I turned my eye. I shouldn't have had it on the stove. That was dumb. And I turned next thing there was tallow all over my kitchen. And it's still discolored from that. You know, I made soap. Never made soap before. I'm good at it now, but I never made it before. And I'm pouring the soap and it freezes midstream, like a waterfall freezing, you know, midstream. I'm going, what the hell? And my cousin goes, oh, you don't put floral in without putting in a citrus or whatever the hell. And I went, something you should have told me yesterday, you know, I said to my cousin. And, you know, all this sort of thing. Honestly, everything I did was crap. And I just went, we're going to die. We're going to die. Unless you can eat grass and turn it into a really good souffle. What do you cook on? What do you cook on? When there's no electricity. Has anyone thought, where do you get the wood? Where do you get 4 years supply of wood? Who's going to chop that shit up, right? It's really hard, right? It's really hard. And start praying for manna because it's hard. You know, preserving stuff. All my sauerkraut, somehow we had this infestation of these little bug things that bite you. I don't even know what they're called. Satan invented them. And they came in all this beautiful crock pot of, you know, sauerkraut, and I opened it up. It's just infested with maggots from this infestation of these things that came through the mozzie net. And I don't even know what the hell. You know, this is, you know.
You have to get it wrong to get it right.
I haven't got it right.
A lot trying to learn life skills as well, real life skills, not the stuff that we're taught.
No.
Yeah, practice makes perfect.
And then you store food and the mice get it. The mice moving. They bore through, you know, like this 20 kilo of, you know, coconut milk powder. I'm going to last me forever. One bloody mouse hole. One bastard, he took a bite this big. He didn't like the taste of it, left and ruined hundreds of dollars worth of coconut milk powder. You know, like, you know.
Oh, nice.
It's really hard. It's just hard. I suck. I admit it. I need to be. I suck.
You'll get there.
And then my sister put on a lot of weight, and she never used to be, you know, heavy. Anyway, she goes, and my mum's like looking at us because I put on my COVID-19 kilo, and my mother, you know, because my husband's idea of prepping was make more beer and pickle more eggs, being English. So he's got, you know, Guinness and a pickled egg is all you need to survive. And it's like, anyway, so we all turned into alcoholics. And then, you know, my mother looks at us all, and we've been drinking for 2 years and everything. She's going like this, like my mother, who's a retired naturopath, looks at her two daughters, and we're like this, you know, and she's going, and my sister said, Jesus wants us to be fat because then we will survive famine.
Absolutely.
Fat people get skinny, and skinny people die. You know, this is her COVID prep plan, you know.
Well, I was sitting here thinking, best I pick up a few kilos. Like at least I've got an excuse now to munch away.
Yeah, you got some catching up to do. Just start chugging it down. The homebrew, you know. Your liver might pack it in, but you know you'll be right.
Well, apparently I can't die, so what can I say? No, well, is it interesting about that though? I wanted to ask you about the death gene being turned off. Is that after the jibby jab? Is that what the jibby jab's about?
Next one. No, the one that's coming.
Like the booster?
No, there'll be a whole other one. There's a whole other one coming, and you see the what do you call it? The WAD technology that Bill Gates found. You know, the eugenicist Bill Gates funded. The next one, and it's the luciferase technology and the you know, you got the little wad and it leaves a tattoo that you can pick up if you get your mobile phone and you run it over. You can see that someone's had it, and it's multi-pricks. That one. That's what I'm hedging my bets on, and I write about that in my book. So, and then because in prophecy it says that the mark, if you look up the meaning of the word mark, and so you know everyone will be forced to take the mark in their right hand or in their forehead, right? That's the original translation. None of these shitty later Catholic translations. But and the word mark, the meaning of the word mark has the same meaning, the origins of that word, as a fang of a poisonous viper pricking through the skin, right, and causing poisoning. That's what the word mark. So if you take the mark, right, that's what it alludes to. And so it's, you know, and you will not be able to die, and it'll cause a grievous sore that you won't be able to heal. So God knows what's in it, but you can already start reading about the sorts of things that they are talking about, whether it's got lithium in it, and you know, lithium doesn't go well inside the body. I'm not sure what's in it, but you can read up that stuff. There's a really good article in Scientific America, and it's called, because I only just sent it to someone. I bothered sending something the other day. I used to research all of this stuff and have so much information, but now I couldn't be bothered. But where is it? The one that's called, or I can give it to you if I can't, because I only just sent it to someone, and I said to them, if you take this, you're stuffed. Where is it? Not
Imagine
that
being a slave forever. No thanks.
It's, I don't even know where it is. Oh, okay, it doesn't matter. Anyway, it is.
This sounds very Lord of the Ringsy, you know, when we were watching the movie Lord of the Rings. Sounds very Lord of the Rings.
Well, Lord of the Rings was created by a member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. So a lot of those books were written by people who were part of the Round Table group, and you know, the ones who were the Illuminati in England, and it was an early form of Hollywood, books like that. And Lord of the Rings is actually a programming, an MK Ultra program. So these they would often write like Wizard of Oz and things like that. The people who wrote these books, Peter Pan and that, were members of these, you know, of the order. And the whole purpose of writing the children's books was to use them as programming before you had movies. And then they turned them all into movies, you know, Wizard of Oz, Osiris, you know. So, yeah, it's all linked. And the authors are all linked. All these ones, C.S. Lewis, couldn't believe it in the 80s. Everyone thought, lovely Christian author. No, he wasn't. He was a pedophile. hung around with pedophiles in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. He wrote about how wonderful it was being a pedophile and, well, being a member of those organisations in England. Okay? He wrote about that.
Who's the author of Lord of the Rings? Because if I'm not mistaken, that guy wrote the book Africa.
J.R.R. Tolkien. And he was good friends with C.S. Lewis and all that crowd.
Wasn't that book written in Australia or not Australia, sorry, South Africa? The Lord of the Rings. I seem to recall someone saying something.
I don't know where he was, but he was part of the what are they called? The Oxford Inklings or Ink. Oh, I can't remember. It's in my book. But they were part of a little occult group, University Occult Writers Group, who were trained by. Because when you look at it, all these people, the people that you've got to look at, it's the Huxley, Wedgwood, Darwin, Galton dynasty. They're the eugenicists and the original Luciferians, and they're the ones who control the world originally. And they, you know, like Darwin, look at what he was publicised by the Huxley senior in the family, and everybody. Aldous Huxley was a propaganda writer, and you know, Aldous Huxley had a big role in the counterculture in, you know, the hippie era, in being introduced MK Ultra to America, and his brother started up, you know, well, brought really the basis of MK Ultra to Australia, one of the Huxleys, and they were all founded. They were behind the founding of the Australian National University and all the research out here, and you know, CSIRO, and they're all linked to all of that. And I show you those amazing connections in Eyes Wide Open that were found by Steve McMurray, my researcher. He was amazing. I'd give Steve a whole bunch of descriptions of people and their code names and all this sort of thing, and he'd come back and say, show me a photo of my abuser and go, recognise this? And I'd go, how the hell do you find, how do you find this stuff? You know, how do you find this stuff? And I don't know, I wonder about Steve McMurray. He used to say to me, Fiona, there are good feds out there. Do you understand? There are good feds. And I'm going, I'm starting to think you're one of them, you know, because it's actually Jason Olben, who he was in TV production, and he's one of his co-producers, came to him after Anthony Kidman died and said, oh, you like a good conspiracy story? He said, I've got a mate who's part of the federal police team that we're just about to go over and arrest Anthony Kidman in response to Fiona Barnett's complaint. And because I wasn't the first one to complain, and before he was found dead, you know, they're going to bring him back to Australia and charge him and stuff. So been a lot of near misses for me. Nearly got into mainstream media proper, nearly got into American media proper, nearly, you know, nearly had my day in court. There's been a lot of near misses. Never quite got there. Never quite got my vindication.
You've done so much, Fiona. Like, I mean, you've exposed.
Yeah, but there's no comparison, Gabby. So what I was aiming for, and this is what pisses me off about Bosie and what's that other one I can't stand, that crazy chick that I can't stand. But anyway, they take my stuff, they ran with it, right? And they discredit me because people see some crazy QAnon type prancing about saying, let's all take down this government, you know, crazy right-wing conspiracy QAnon nutter, right, act. And then that just wipes my credibility in the mainstream public, all right? Yeah. And I always, at the start, I never said anything conspiratorial. I didn't do that. With Judy Byington ruined that. And she put up crap around about the Ninth Circle, which I still don't know what the hell that is. And then Media Watch, ABC Media Watch attacked me. And then that was it. They discredited me because I had all the media on side. I was ready to go, right? You know, and all I tried to do was keep this mainstream, to break into the mainstream. I had a strategy so we wouldn't be discredited, so I could get the message out there and you know, bring a name to the you know, and faces to that invisible mass of kids that were murdered, that I saw murdered in the name of national security.
Yeah. Yeah, it's time that we listen to our survivors. I think that's the big takeaway.
Listen to the survivors. Why is anyone listening to someone who's not a survivor? They should go and talk about their own shit. Oh, you're in the SAS? Go talk about child trafficking by the military. Go talk about shit you know. Don't take my stuff, right, and use it to create a platform and deceive the nation, right, of QAnon fans, right, without mentioning me or letting anyone up on stage to talk about me specifically. You know, people hold, you know, posters up in their faces and they can't even look at them if it's my name's on it. All right, don't do that. And I'm really ticked off. And they're deceiving people. And one of the reasons I've come out recently is because of, well, not just, there's a few reasons, but it's because of seeing these people steal the narrative and direct it away from the truth, right? Yeah. And then they turn it into something else, and then all the victims get lost in it, or they manipulate the victims. And, you know, it's just, I can't stand it. I can't stand agent provocateurs having that much influence and coming out in direct response to me and what I did, because I'm the one who coined the notion of agent provocateurs in Australia, right? I'm the one who told everyone about it. I wrote a chapter on it. And then they come out and go, oh, I'm out here to, you know, oh, it's all these agent provocateurs. And that's being said by someone who's an agent provocateur. You know, and people can't see it. They're so dumb. I just can't handle it. I can't handle it. I just does my head in. When I battled trolls and agents and was nearly bumped off by them for many, many years. And then to come out after, you know, having 2 years away from it all and see what's happened to the truth community. And oh my God, we're back to square one. You know, just makes me sick. I mean, you know, I started trying to go on social media and that. I'm going back off. I can't handle it. You know what? Everyone can have it. They can all just, you know, just go, great, go listen to someone else. They come to me, oh, but, you know, we all have to join hands and sing Kumbaya, and we're all after the same message. And isn't it good when, you know, it doesn't matter who holds up the placard and doesn't matter who's saying it? Well, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Because if it's Paul Keating standing up there with the placard, oh, you know, support survivors. Holy crap, you know. I judge politicians and I judge these people by what they do in the dark.
Exactly. And there's a lot of, I guess, you know, it'd be naive for us to not think that there are counter movements at this stage. And
oh
you know,
my God.
you have the mainstream narrative, you have the counter movement, and in between there's the truth.
It's the main thing I exposed to people for years and years and years. I was teaching them about agents, about how the government employs all these people to sit on their ass and troll social media, right? And they all create all different accounts. And if they've got 2 first names as their first and last name, that's an agent, right? So, you know, if they're up there and if you see people talking to each other and it's the same person, you can see from their dialogue, it's 2 people with 2 different, the same person with 2 different names, talking to each other. Oh, yeah, Bob. Oh, what do you reckon, Fred? Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is all psychological operations, and they're not that smart, but they've been given training. They've been given training that the military's come up with in psychological operations, and they're all over. They're all over your Telegram, you know, groups. Everywhere. I've only just come on Telegram, and I'm going off. I can't stand it. Bye. You know, if you're so fucking stupid, that you're not going to listen to the person who first told Australia this stuff. I was the first. There was no one else out there. You're not going to listen to me, and you're going to sit there and argue with me saying, oh, you know, get on board. Karen Brewer, she started abusing the crap out of me. And defending Bosie and all that, you know, to me, and saying, oh, I think these, you know, some survivors, it's me, like to yap instead of actually doing something about this pedophile problem. Oh, you go fuck yourself, you bitch. You know.
I'm sorry, I just love your straightforwardness. I really do. So that's why I'm chuckling at that. But I understand what you're saying, because there really is, and I think this for me especially. Now I'm one of these very few people that is very lucky enough that has never had this in my experience. For me, I want to create a platform for real, authentic people like yourself, which is why we do what we do here, and really to get not our message, your message out. I understand, and you know, and I would say particularly the last 3 months or so, I have personally felt such a uprising in the choking energy. You know, there's something going on. Don't come and tell me the white hats are in control. Rubbish. Everything I'm seeing is showing me the contrary to that. So
that's a psychological operation term, right?
Well,
QAnon was a psychological operation devised by Michael Aquino, and the person who was Q was 8chan, and it was Jim who ran 8chan. He was the mates with Michael Aquino, and Michael Aquino defended Jim at his first divorce, right? They're all in the American military, the American army together. Michael Aquino, one of my key abusers.
Yeah, I know Jessie spoke a lot about Michael Aquino, who was one of her key abusers as well, along with John Brennan. So,
yeah, well, they're the original US Army MK Ultra group that I write about in my book. Yeah, Michael Aquino, John Gittinger, who was a genius psychologist, a psychological tester, developed the PAS personality assessment system. You've got, which they still use in the military today. You've got Jolyon West, you know, and Timothy Leary. These are all the people that directly abused me in America, in Dulce, in their MK Ultra base. That's what it was. It was a base it was a lab, you know, for this sort of thing, where they kept people, kidnapped people, kept them in cages and all that sort of thing, and experimented on them and all that sort of thing. It was dreadful. So, you know, people need to educate themselves, you know, get out of this QAnon mind frame and realize
I agree.
It's all a trap, people. It's brainwashing. It's I can't handle it.
No,
I can't handle it.
So that's what I'm saying. You know, I've long ago, from my opinion, have been saying, stop giving your power away. You stop listening to people. Stop making someone else your hero. It is up to us as individuals to wake up, align, and actually collectively, those of us who are awakening and waking up, to actually find solutions to what is going on here. That's really, and whatever that is, I don't know. And, you know, it's a little bit scary hearing what you're saying, but I do believe it to be the truth, most definitely. So what I'm saying is that how does the mass awaken to this truth? Because there has been so much psychological warfare going on, media manipulation, never mind just with people like yourself that have been first-hand recipients to these atrocities, but the average person on the street watching TV, reading the newspaper, good people, okay? Good people, you know, with good hearts. So there's got to be something that needs to awaken these people to the truth. What is that? That's what I'm asking you.
Read my book. Start by reading my book. When I see people on this Telegram lately, these accounts, and they start lecturing me, and I turn around and I said, you know, one of the last things I said was, yes or no, have you read my book? And they, oh, well, no, but well, go read it. It's free. It's been out there for years now. Go read my book. I put everything in one thing, you know, the main stuff in one book. Yes, there's more I could tell you, but just start with that. And if you can't get your head around that, you're screwed. If you just, I know, they get caught up in this emotion, and they're looking for a savior. They're looking for an antichrist, and they're just going to be sucked in.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for a new Hitler. Just the way people go, oh, if I were in Nazi Germany, I wouldn't have drunk the Kool-Aid, you know, I wouldn't have helped, you know, I would have.
Everyone, they are doing it. It's
They're doing it again. They're doing it again. Everyone's doing it. You've got different groups. You've got the QAnon group, fanatics, doing it, being influenced by NLP on the stage in Canberra. And then you've got people like a good friend of mine who, you know, militant vaxxer, Nothing you say, you can't say anything. I had to ditch one friend recently. I couldn't handle it. She's such a staunch Labor Party supporter, and she's going on because she was a secretary in the Labor Party and that. And good person. These are two good people, good friends of mine. But they're so left wing, they're so Labor Party, communist oriented, you know, social welfare and whatever. And like, let's face it, I'm for social welfare. I'm on NDIS. You know, I'm disabled. But these people are so. They believe anything in the media. You know, my friend that down in Victoria, when I started saying, I'm hearing from independent sources that they burnt people with like radiation weapons outside of Parliament House. She goes, oh, I heard in the media they were sunburned. And I'm like, why the fuck would the media go all to the trouble of reporting sunburn?
Exactly.
That doesn't make sense, right? What, sunburn down your throat? Down the back of your throat? You know, it's like you can't, it's down to the point they're so bloody minded and people so divided. It's like you've got, you can't reason with them anymore. These ones who are triple vaxxed and, all this sort of thing. I cannot reason with my friends. I can't reason with them anymore. All right? I can show her stuff. I can show her evidence. I had a friend here who works at the local hospital, left. She was getting damaged people in 60 and over in the medical ward. So they've gone through ER, and that was months and months ago, mid last year. Up to half of admissions into the medical ward were damaged from Botox. All right. So, and I had the nurse sit there to tell my other friend, and my friend goes, "Oh, I've got to go. I've got to do something. You tell her anything now," and she's, "Oh, I've got to go." I could show her a video. I could take her in there and show her and point at that, and she still wouldn't see it. They're like, "No, I'm not going to take any of that in anymore." Well, you know what? I just think, you know, the China are coming, and we deserve it. We need a good war, because people are so stupid. You know, maybe they'll believe it when there's the gun pointed in their face or they see their neighbour's head blown off. Maybe then they'll start waking up and realising what's going on. What more can we do? What more can we do? Because it's going to take something extreme, seeing a mushroom cloud on the horizon, for people to wake up now.
It really is.
Because they follow, you know, my friend goes, "I don't watch telly. I don't listen to," well, where are you getting your news, mate? Don't tell me you don't. You know, don't tell me you don't. You're hooked into that ABC, right? Radio every day, and you listen to that bloody Swan guy talking shit who hasn't been a registered doctor for 30 years and who was mates with Kidman, you know, one of my, you know, Kidman, my perp, and you listen to Norman Swan, you just won't know what the hell's going on. And that's what they do. They lap up the ABC. They watch Parliament House. This is their life, you know, and they think they're informed. And they won't listen to anything I say. I've got my friend, you know, that I had to cut off from, because she's there going, "Oh, you know how wonderful the Labor Party is, and Dan Andrews is wonderful," and something I said. And finally I said, "Listen, I was raped by the Labor Party. I was trafficked to the Labor Party." And she goes, "Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, but Whitlam did a lot for me." And I said, "He did a lot for me too. Ruined my life," you know. So I can't handle it. You know, people are stupid. I've had enough. Just you know, go die. Had enough. It's like these idiots. You know, you've got to be double Botox to volunteer in the SES, and you know they've had no SES, no cops, no paramedics, and everyone to rescue people in Mullumbimby and Lismore and all this sort of thing. And I just think, you know what? If you're one of those idiot, you know, militant, you know, triple Botoxers, you don't deserve to be rescued by someone who's not Botox. You know, should move on by, because if you're the one, you're the reason this is like this. You know, why there weren't enough people to rescue people. Yeah. I've had enough at people's idiocy. I've had enough.
I can't believe that there's such issues with the army doing their job, like assisting the public. And
no, they are not. The army are not there. The army they're coming and they're doing promo shots using the towns as a backdrop, as their movie set.
Horrific.
And it's just gaslighting. It's horrific. taking the piss, honestly.
And but we've managed to use them for lockdowns all throughout the last 2 years. But now that we've got flooding and people, you know, really dire
it's just gaslighting. It's gaslighting the public.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, it was crazy. I was actually just seeing some clips of speaking of the army, of the Indian army, or guys in India. I mean, these guys are dropping like flies from heart attacks. It's insane.
It's a coincidence. They had, don't you understand, they had underlying conditions.
Yeah, exactly.
And Shane Warne dropped dead because he was on a juice fast.
Yeah, right.
No, that's what the
Daddy
said,
juice,
apparently.
yeah. The Botox juice.
Juiced up, that's for sure.
He was triple Botox to go to Thailand, so I wonder what it was. No one's heard of circumstantial evidence anymore. Yeah.
Wow.
Up at Rabina Public Hospital, a friend of mine who's dying of breast cancer went up there, and the oncologist there told her yesterday, we can't keep up with the increase in breast cancer cases at Rabina Hospital. Increase in breast cancer cases that are directly linked to direct consequence of the Botox. Yep.
Already.
Oh yeah. It's all, you know, long term, because they go, if something doesn't happen in the first few weeks, they go, oh well, and if they cark it, you know, a few months down the track or whatever, they go, oh no, well, no, they had the Botox ages ago. It can't be that. Oh, you're so fucking dumb. So dumb.
But I think this is so sad because I've recently, as well, one of my very, very good friends, a fellow healer, who maybe 4 or 5 years ago now had a double mastectomy. Which I was very surprised even at the time, went the traditional route for healing. I've just got to find my words carefully here. And then since this whole Botox scenario, I love that, by the way, Fiona, thank you. I'm going to be quoting that from now. Since the whole Botox came along, I was very surprised that so many healers have been masking and muzzling up and going for Botox, okay? To me, that's quite shocking.
Well, alternative, like naturopaths and that.
Yeah, exactly. And my point is, you know...
I'm sorry, my mother was a naturopath. You are not a naturopath if that's what you go and do.
I agree.
I'm sorry, you've just moved into mainstream. Piss off, take your shit and peddle it somewhere else because you suck. You're over.
I agree. And that for me has been a shocker. Anyway, so my same friend contacted me maybe a week ago and told me that her breast cancer has returned. And I said to her, I'm going to ask you a personal question, but did you go for Botox? Yes, I did. I'm going, are you seeing a correlation? No, not at all.
No, I don't see correlation. My friend, every time her dad went and took Botox, he had blood clotting in the legs, and then he had drop of blood pressure the next time, fell over, smacked his head, nearly bled out and all this. They can't see the relationship. I'm like, you know.
The program
it's like, you know, and I said to my friend, I said, if you were in Germany, Nazi Germany, I said, you would be a member of the Nazi party. Oh no, I've got better morals than that. And I said, no, it's all about propaganda and how stupid you are.
Yeah, it is propaganda. That's the thing. And
propaganda. They're following propaganda. That's my two friends that I'm just having trouble with at the moment. They're just swallowing the propaganda. They're just absolute victims of it. Yeah. And when they wake up, it'll be too late. And no, you can't tell.
It's just a war. It's like a war for people's minds, and so many just have lost all ability to just have any sense of like common sense, just to be able to think independently.
It's like you see this real sheep from the goats situation happening, the separation of the sheep from the goats.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see, I'm seeing the best come out in people that I'm a bit surprised, you know? I've made some better friends.
I was actually about to say that the people, yet there are those that have surprised me the most. The ones that I didn't think I'd be surprised by in terms of saying, up yours, I'm not doing that. I believe in my sovereign health and I trust my immune system. Thank you very much. And I'm smelling a rat and there's no ways I'm even going close to any of that nonsense. But there have been those that I've also been very, very shocked by, that I'm like, what the F? Are you really?
Because you see people make a choice. You see people, they can choose either path, and you saw them, you know, and you look back over life, you go, oh, this could have gone this way or that way. And then they go, oh, bang, they go the other way, and that's it, bye, they're gone. You know, they fork in the road and they go.
They forked off.
Not that I had many friends to begin with, trust me, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, wow, Fiona, thank you so much. It's been a delight to meet you and to chat with you. And I definitely hope that you will come back and join us again in the future and have some more enlightening conversations. I definitely think that
this is my only social interaction. This, you know.
Well, I would love to be socially interactive with you again in the future, because I really think that we need these hard, real conversations. We really do, you know, and I would love for us to have some more of these. It's not easy topics to be discussing, you know, and it's true. This is not a time of, as much as what we love the kumbaya, we have to align. We have to be in our truth. We have to take real, positive, conscious steps forward and wake up. Wake up. It's not too late to wake up. It's really not too late to wake up. We can still do it. There's still time. That's my opinion on the matter. Yes, and sadly, there's a lot of people who are choosing to fork off. But I think it's time, honestly, to get real. And I like your attitude around that.
I haven't had a choice. This is all I've known, though. This is my training, and this is all I know. So I'm in large part a product of my training. Yeah. Yeah, I was trained by the military, and that's what you see come out, you know.
Well, I hope that everyone who's been watching and will still watch and will be watching in the future takes what we all need to take out of this. Share this far and wide, please. And it's not, I know, especially as I said in the last 3 months, my intuition has been screaming at me. There's no fancy marshmallow puffiness happening in the background. We have to look at what's happening, and we have to see, just look at the media. How many of us are being whacked off the media and being shadow banned and stuff like that? Then just that in itself should tell us there's no one that's
this is unreal. I mean, people used to get bans just for posting one of my things. You know, it got to the point where it was all, you know, and the laws were changing and you weren't allowed to say anything. They changed the laws so you couldn't say anything about politicians and all this sort of thing. And that was like, oh, this is gone, it's over, you know. And so all those old, you know, Twitter and bloody Facebook and all that, they're all gone, you know. That was a good platform at one time. That was the platform. And but now, no. I mean, they banned you can't even post my blog sites. You can't post those to social media. You can't post them now. You couldn't for 2 years. 2 years ago, you couldn't. They were banning them then. Just getting lifetime bans. And they went, I'm off for good. I posted your stuff, and all I did was link to something. Yeah, that was the end. That's how much. So you got to wonder, how did these other groups get away prancing about a bloody stage in Canberra, while everyone else, people like Dale Holmes, is, you know, having witches throw, you know, cremated remains in his house, and then he's been chased around while he's up here being chased around by bloody you know, cult members working for Asia. I mean, you know, that's the real thing that happens to people who tell the truth. Yeah, they shoot at you, right? They don't just let you free reign. Load of crap.
Yeah.
Time to get real.
Yeah.
And the real reason I come out against these agents is because you don't understand that they kill. In the end, there's a bunch of them that kill people. There's a group that move around, and they often have Rose or Rosie in their name, and it's a pseudonym. They don't use their real names, and they get people, they get victims, they get into their homes, they take their stuff, and that person ends up in prison or hospital or dead. Right? This is very serious. Very serious. It's not a game. It's not just a little, oh, why is everyone fighting? We should all hold hands. We're all in this together. No, we're not. We're not in this together. You are stupid and you don't know what I'm talking about. You haven't lived this, right? And you need to shut the fuck up, because I'm trying to save people here. I'm trying to warn innocent people from being sucked in, marked, and then taken away in the night by the Gestapo that has come. So shut up.
Yeah. We all need some discernment at the moment, not taking things on face value.
Exactly. Okay, guys and girls, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
Well, you know what? The truth sets us free. So it's about understanding what is real and what is true. So share far and wide, please. And I hope to see you all next week again on Aquarius Rising Australia, shedding some more light on Australia. Fiona, thank you so much. I really look forward to having you back in the future.
Thank you for this eclectic talk.
Yeah,
this eclectic talk that had no structure. It was just a bit of this and a bit of that, wasn't it? It was like sitting around a lounge room, an international lounge room, talking shit.
Yeah, in my lounge room. Thank you, Gabs, as always, for what you do, and yeah, wonderful. Okay, guys and girls, God bless you all. Take good care. If you haven't already, please give us a like, a share, and subscribe. We still whacked off our main channel, but we will definitely be sharing this on Aquarius Rising Africa in the next few days. Take it easy. See you soon. Bye.